Welcome to the Real Crime Diary, Daily Dose of Crime. I'm your host, Sean Dupree. Today we delve into a case that has sent shockwaves through France and beyond. The story of Gisele Pellecaut is not just a tale of betrayal, but a chilling example of how the most insidious crimes can hide behind closed doors. This case challenges our understanding of trust, justice, and the very fabric of society. Prepare yourselves for a story that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about relationships and the law. In a quiet town in France, a seemingly normal marriage concealed a horrifying secret that would shock the nation and the world. For nearly a decade, Dominique Pellecaut, a man who appeared to be the perfect husband, orchestrated a series of unthinkable crimes against his own wife, Gisele. Dominique systematically drugged Gisele, rendering her unconscious and vulnerable. But his depravity didn't stop there. He invited dozens of other men into their home to participate in the repeated sexual assaults of his incapacitated wife. This wasn't a one-time occurrence or a brief lapse in judgment. This was a meticulously planned and executed series of crimes that spanned almost 10 years. The sheer duration of these attacks is as shocking as the acts themselves, leaving many to wonder how such prolonged abuse could go undetected for so long. Gisele Pellecaut's testimony in court was nothing short of heart-wrenching. With unwavering strength, she faced her husband Dominique and the other defendants, delivering a powerful statement that left the courtroom in stunned silence. "My life has crumbled to nothing," Gisele told the court, her voice trembling with emotion. At 72 years old, she expressed uncertainty about her ability to rebuild her life after enduring nearly a decade of unimaginable trauma. In a moment of raw honesty, Gisele addressed her husband directly, saying, "I always tried to lift you up. You reached the lowest depths of the human soul, but unfortunately it was you who made that choice." The pain in her words was palpable, a testament to the profound betrayal she had experienced. Despite the emotional toll, Gisele's bravery shone through as she confronted not only her husband, but also the dozens of other men involved in her assault. Her determination to seek justice and share her story publicly has inspired many, showing incredible courage in the face of such horrific circumstances. Gisele's testimony serves as a powerful reminder of the long-lasting impact of sexual assault on victims. Her words, "I don't know how I'm going to rebuild myself, get over all this," highlight the immense challenge she now faces in reclaiming her life and sense of self. In a bold move that sent shockwaves through France and beyond, Gisele Pellecaut insisted on having her husband's mass rape trial held in full public view. This decision, unusual for sexual assault cases in France, speaks volumes about Gisele's courage and determination to spark change. Gisele's motivation was clear. She wanted every woman who has suffered sexual abuse to see that they can stand up and be heard. In her own words, she hoped that all victims of rape would say to themselves, "Madame Pellecaut did it, so we can do it too." This public trial isn't just about one case. It's a statement against the culture of shame that often surrounds sexual assault victims. Gisele's message is powerful. It's not the victims who should feel ashamed, but the perpetrators. The societal implications of this choice are far-reaching. By bringing this horrific crime into the light, Gisele is forcing a national conversation about sexual violence, consent, and the legal system's handling of such cases. Her bravery could potentially pave the way for more victims to come forward and for much-needed changes in how these crimes are addressed in France and beyond. Now let's delve into the chilling details of how Dominique Pellecaut carried out his heinous crimes. For nearly a decade, he orchestrated a series of calculated attacks on his own wife, Gisele. The method was as cunning as it was cruel. Dominique would begin by sharing a seemingly innocent glass of white wine with Gisele. Unsuspecting, she never noticed anything unusual about her meal. He'd then prepare her favorite dessert, raspberry ice cream, and bring it to her in bed. It was a gesture that should have been one of love, but instead masked a sinister intent. The drugs Dominique slipped into Gisele's food and drink worked quickly. She would lose consciousness rapidly, often while watching television or reading in bed. When she awoke, she'd find herself fully clothed in her pajamas, with no memory of what had transpired. Gisele would sometimes feel more tired than usual, but she attributed this to her active lifestyle. Little did she know that during these blackouts, her husband was inviting other men into their home to assault her. The calculated nature of these attacks is truly disturbing. Dominique exploited his wife's trust, using their routine and her favorite foods as weapons against her. This wasn't a crime of passion or opportunity, but a meticulously planned series of assaults that continued for years without detection. Now let's delve into the legal context surrounding this case in France. It's crucial to understand that France's laws regarding sexual consent and rape have undergone significant changes in recent years. Until 2021, believe it or not, France didn't have a legal age of sexual consent. This changed following public outrage over a case involving an 11-year-old schoolgirl. Today, any sexual act between an adult and someone under 15 is automatically considered non-consensual. However, the law still has some glaring issues when it comes to adult victims. Unlike many other European countries, French law doesn't explicitly reference consent in these cases. Instead, it defines rape as an act of penetration or oral sex using violence, coercion, threat, or surprise. This definition creates significant challenges for prosecutors. They must prove an intention to rape, rather than simply establishing a lack of consent. As a result, only about 14% of rape accusations in France lead to formal investigations. Legal experts argue that this low rate is partly due to the law's narrow definition and the stereotypes it perpetuates about what constitutes a true rape. The Pellecaut case could be a watershed moment for French legislation. It's shining a spotlight on these legal shortcomings and sparking a national conversation about consent and justice for sexual assault victims. As this trial unfolds, many are hopeful it could lead to further reforms in French law, potentially expanding the definition of rape and placing a greater emphasis on the concept of consent. The Pellecaut case has ignited a firestorm of public reaction across France. As the trial unfolds, we've seen unprecedented protests erupting outside courthouses nationwide. Demonstrators are taking a stand against what they call rape culture, demanding sweeping changes in how sexual assault cases are handled. But it's not just about anger. There's been an outpouring of support for Gisele Pellecaut. Each day as she arrives at court, she's greeted by crowds offering applause and encouragement. It's a powerful display of solidarity that speaks volumes about the impact of her bravery. This case has sparked a broader societal conversation that's long overdue. People are questioning deep-rooted attitudes towards sexual violence and consent. It's forcing France to confront uncomfortable truths about its legal system and cultural norms. The Pellecaut trial may well be a turning point in how the nation addresses these critical issues. The legal landscape surrounding this case is as complex as it is disturbing. One of the most challenging aspects prosecutors face is the way French law defines rape. Unlike many other countries, France doesn't explicitly consider consent in its legal definition. Instead, the law focuses on whether violence, coercion, threat, or surprise was used. This creates a significant hurdle for prosecutors, who must prove the intention to rape rather than simply demonstrating a lack of consent. It's a subtle but crucial distinction that can make or break a case. In the Pellecaut trial, we're seeing this play out in real time. Some of the accused are claiming they thought Gisele was simply asleep or participating in a consensual fetish act. Others argue that Dominique Pellecaut's consent was sufficient. These defenses, while morally reprehensible, highlight the legal gray areas that exist in French law. Perhaps most shockingly, only about 14% of rape accusations in France lead to formal investigations. Legal experts attribute this low rate partly to the way the law is written, favoring a narrow stereotype of what constitutes a true rape. This case could be a watershed moment, potentially spurring changes to these outdated laws and reshaping how France handles sexual assault cases in the future. As we come to the end of today's episode, it's clear that the Pellecaut case is more than just a shocking crime. It's a wake-up call for French society and its legal system. Gisele Pellecaut's bravery in facing her attackers and insisting on a public trial has sparked a crucial conversation about sexual assault and consent laws in France. Her courage may well be the catalyst for much-needed change. By sharing her story so openly, she's not only seeking justice for herself, but potentially paving the way for other victims to come forward and be heard. This case exposes glaring weaknesses in how France handles sexual assault cases. It challenges lawmakers to reconsider consent laws and how rape is defined and prosecuted. The public outcry and protests we've seen show that people are demanding change. As this trial continues, its impact could reverberate far beyond the courtroom, potentially reshaping French law and society's understanding of sexual violence. Gisèle Pellecaut's strength may well become a turning point in France's approach to these heinous crimes. But what do you think? Could this case inspire changes in how sexual violence is handled across Europe or even globally? Do you believe the legal system is equipped to truly deliver justice in cases like this? Or is reform overdue? What aspects of this trial stand out to you the most? Let us know your thoughts, and don't forget to share your opinions in the comments or on social media. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, stay safe and be vigilant. Hey listeners, welcome back to The Real Crime Diary. I'm your host, Sean Dupree. If you tuned in last time, we had a deep dive into the disturbing history of power abuse across different eras, looking at the connection between dominance, control, and how it plays out even today. We touched on scandals from the past and compared them with some modern-day examples, showing how these patterns of abuse, unfortunately, persist. One of the most insightful tools we've explored to understand this is my book, Power, Pleasure, and Pain, a study of abuse through time. It's not just a historical account, but an interdisciplinary approach to understanding why this keeps happening. We draw from history, philosophy, and modern case studies to explain how figures like Dominique Pellecaut, Harvey Weinstein, and others have exploited their positions of power for their own gain, often protected by the very systems meant to stop them. Recap of last interaction. In our last live stream, we discussed how libertinism, philosophically introduced by figures like Marquis de Sade, has shaped the way power and pleasure have been entangled throughout history. This concept ties directly into how figures like Weinstein operated, as we saw parallels between de Sade's fictional characters and the way powerful men manipulated their victims in real life. You guys had some amazing comments, asking how societal structures have allowed these behaviors to go unchecked for so long. It's a crucial question, and one that the book addresses deeply. Why this book is valuable. Now, what's powerful about Power, Pleasure, and Pain is its ability to break down these historical patterns and link them to the present. You're not just reading about ancient Rome or Enlightenment philosophy, you're seeing how these ideologies are alive today. The book uncovers how sexual violence and control have been systematically woven into the fabric of societies from ancient times right up to the modern era. It's about understanding not just the individual predators, but the systems that protect them. Whether it's in royal courts, religious institutions, or today's corporate and entertainment worlds. Through these historical lenses, we also explore movements like #MeToo that are beginning to dismantle these structures. The fight for justice is far from over, but as the book demonstrates, we are in the midst of a cultural shift where legal reforms are finally addressing these long-standing issues. It's more than a history lesson. It's a guide to understanding and supporting change today. What's next? If you want to dive deeper, I suggest picking up Power, Pleasure, and Pain, a study of abuse through time. It's available now, and trust me, it will change the way you think about power, pleasure, and control. We've even got some exclusive content coming up on the channel where we'll be exploring the book's case studies in even more detail, so stay tuned for that. And if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to The Real Crime Diary so you don't miss any updates. Let's keep this conversation going, because understanding the past is key to changing the future.